He's already in my comfort zone.
Okay.
And you want to look at each other as well.
Well, look like Jesus. Why don't we just stand a little bit further away?
Shall we?
You got to remember, I lost a lot of social skills in my lockdown period. She's filming here as well. Okay.
All right, Cameron Dunn here for Live, Sail, Die, along here with Chris Steele. We've just finished day one of the America's Cup World Series. Pretty cool day of yachting.
Yeah, absolutely. It was awesome. We got to see 4 pretty interesting races. And yeah, there was some interesting signs from different teams. I think obviously out of the blocks early on, it was Emirates Team New Zealand showing a really, really good turn of pace against the Italians. You know, it took me by surprise. We knew they were quick, but you know, to win a race by over 3 minutes against the challenger of record was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think the obviously the start started well for them. They got what they wanted by the looks of it. They certainly wanted the left. We saw a bit of normal kind of racing up the first beat, a couple of close crosses. Probably Luna Rossa didn't do a great first tack or second tack coming back to them. But after that, man, did Team New Zealand just put the afterburners on? Yeah,
so a real interesting one. Obviously, they picked up a bit of breeze on that right-hand side after that first cross, but I was kind of going over the race analytics in my head, and I'm thinking, well, if you want the right-hand side of the racetrack, you almost need to go left first because you only got a minute of sailing until the boundary. Yeah. And then when you tack over, you've sort of got 3 minutes or so on port going out to the right-hand side. So if you want that side, you know, you're almost better to go the other way early on, set yourself up to be longer tack out that side. So, I mean, the only way you can lose that side is if at the first intersection the other boat makes enough of a gain to lee-bow tack you. Otherwise, you commit to making the duck and heading out to the favoured side like the Kiwis did. They crossed in front, but they went out to that right-hand side, and then the next time they came back together, they were over 100 metres ahead.
Yeah, and then also the way the top marks were set up, approaching from the left at the top mark around that right gate was always going to be a bit of a nice gain.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, obviously. When the boats are trading tacks, you know, opposite sides of the boundaries, you know, if they're bouncing off each boundary and coming back together, that sets you up later on for a split at the top. And a lot of those decisions, you know, that later on in the race you're affected whether you make a gain or a loss, come all the way back to the start and how you ended up. So it is a little bit hit or miss in that regard, but no doubt with the analytics and the software these guys have on their boats, they'll know when they start the race, if they're going in one direction towards a boundary, they'll know exactly how many tacks they're going to have and which mark that sets them up for around the racetrack.
Straight line boat speed though, Team New Zealand certainly looked to have the edge. Upwind, and certainly on that first run, that was a pretty impressive display.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, we knew they were quick, but against the Italians in particular, I think, you know, to win a race by over 3 minutes, it was very impressive. And then we got to see that turn of boat speed again later in the day against the Americans, who, to me, the Americans, you know, look good all day, and all week we've seen them in that breeze direction and condition. They've been going really well. So, you know, to come from that far behind, they were, you know, 300-400 metres behind at one point and making a lot of mistakes. You know, got to give credit to the Americans and the way they sailed. They put the boat in the right place, but you know, it got really tight at the top there, and you know, they slipped up maybe for a brief second and let the Kiwis back in it. And then there was a bit of an interesting umpire call at the top there where, you know, they picked up a penalty, but kind of got let off the hook by not actually taking a penalty at all, and so that obviously gave them the race win. So encouraging signs there for both teams. I think the Americans, you know, show that they're definitely a strong contingent here, and especially in those conditions, a hard team to beat.
But as we saw on Tuesday in the practice race, a very similar wind strength.
Yeah,
they seem to have pretty good speed. You know, yes, Team New Zealand wound them in on that last upwind. I think when they go back and look at it, they maybe could have, if they could do it again, possibly be a little bit looser on their tactical side, you know, rather than just the real super tight covering.
It's almost hard because it's so shifty that you almost need to sail your own boat in that, especially when you get to the top end of that course, because you know the boat behind is always going to be tacking when it suits them, and if you're just responding to that, you're always giving up a little bit, and you know that created that situation at the top where it was super tight.
So what was cool there was we saw normal, proper match racing.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
The same things that go down whether you're in a Catalina or an America's Cup 75. There's the same philosophies happening every time. And what I like to see, even the shots of Peter Burling rounding the top mark in the first race, he's driving the boat around the top mark, looking over his shoulder, looking for where the next puff's coming from.
Yeah.
You know, it's good classic yachting.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was good to watch. And then, I guess moving on to some of the other challenges, interesting day for Luna Rossa. Obviously, coming out of that first race and losing by that margin would have been would have been a little bit worrying signs for them, but then racing against NS Team UK, who had plenty of issues, it was nice for the Italians to notch up a win on the board. But be interesting to see how you come away from the day there. Obviously, you come off the water 1-1, so you're right in it, but there'd be some worrying signs with the straight line boat speed they didn't quite have in that first race.
Oh yeah, they of course, winning the second race of the day is always better than winning the first one and losing the second from a mental standpoint, but they'll also be knowing that, hey, Team New Zealand had a pretty good edge in them in that first race. So they will be a little bit of soul searching, but I'm sure they'll be trying to come out tomorrow firing.
Yeah, and potentially maybe some lighter breezes tomorrow, which I think from what we've seen certainly should favour them. Yeah, I think maybe they've got bigger foils, but they definitely seem like they're a little stronger in the lighter airs, a little better boat handling, staying on the foils, getting on the foils earlier. So, I think, although they're a little bit slower today, I think they'll be really strong tomorrow and one to watch.
Yeah, they look good round the course. Their manoeuvres are good. But, tomorrow's going to be a great day for them because it's 2 races, Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli versus American Magic.
Yeah.
So, in slightly lighter conditions, I think they're going to be the 2 races to really watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I guess talking about the British team who had some more issues today, it's so hard for them. Obviously, they've been copping plenty of flack in the media about where they sort of are at right now. But I sort of look at it and think there's plenty of guys in that team that are obviously very established sailors. Ben driving the boat, and then I'm sure they've got a really good group of designers behind them. And whilst right now the boat might not be performing to where they want it to, like they do have a bit of time to try and turn it around. And so. I'm sure they'll be back on the drawing board tonight. They'll be having some long meetings and trying to figure out, firstly, like where can they make the biggest gain and how quickly, and then from there, you've obviously had experience in the cup teams before, Cam. Like how do those meetings look?
Well, I think that I'm probably a little bit less positive than you are on their situation right now because it's been going on for a while. It's not like it's just a bad day. It's been a bunch of bad days rolled on together. It sounds like they had problems from before they left the dock this morning, possibly with their hydraulics and with that cant. So hopefully that was just the issue and that shed a bad light on them, I guess. But unfortunately, there's been a bunch of bad days rolled in together. Once you get that snowball rolling down the hill, it's really hard to stop it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you say, they've got some amazing people on the team. They won't be giving up. There is time for them to catch up. They're realistically, they've got till the end of January to really sort themselves out before the semi-finals of the Prada Cup. But after today's performance and tomorrow being a lighter air day, which we haven't seen the best of them in this last week or so, it could be a long one for them.
Yeah, the coolest thing for me after watching all that racing today was just being able to see so much more of what was going on board. There were some great shots of what was happening with the skippers. Obviously, the close-up cameras looking at the skippers, how much they've got on with the steering wheels and the buttons, hydraulics, and then some of the other functions that the other team members are involved in as well. We got to see some good shots of the grinders and what they're looking at. The British team have very interesting grinding setup with displays in front of all the grinders. Whilst we don't know what's going on there, there's plenty there, isn't there?
It certainly looks like Dean Barker's wrestling with it around the course a few times. He's got plenty on.
Yeah.
Awesome shots. Great to see the onboard footage for the first time, and the audio. I wish we could hear more of that around the race course. So yeah, really looking forward to tomorrow. We're going to be straight out here, hopefully on course C again with a completely opposite wind direction.
Yeah.
A little bit lighter. It'll be awesome to watch.
Potentially more stable breeze and hopefully some more tighter match racing.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, so that's the end of day one. I'm Chris Steele here with Cameron Dunn, and we look forward to joining you guys back out here on the water tomorrow for more action. Big thank you to all the sponsors and supporters of Live Sail Die. Go and give them a follow and a like. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.